3 years ago, I was sent abroad by the person I loved the most. 3 years later, I can finally return to my home country. But I no longer love Ethan either. However, everyone still looks at me with warning eyes. Luna, do you still want to pester Ethan? Do you still want to ruin the relationship between Sister Isabella and Ethan? After 3 years abroad, you still haven't learned your lesson. Ethan is still too soft-hearted. He shouldn't have been allowed to come back to the country. That's right. A bad person like her should go to jail and should have died abroad. I just look at them in silence. But later, I heard a piece of news and suddenly broke down. I murmured to myself, William. Have you seen my William? Please, don't die. You said you would come to find me again. I was in a frenzy for a long time. Finally, no one thought I was putting on an act anymore. Ethan pushed through the crowd and hugged me tightly. But his hands were trembling. Luna, what's wrong with you? Who is William? Don't scare me, okay? I've been back in the country for less than an hour. I've already received more than a dozen warning text messages. How dare you come back? Weren't the black people abroad hitting you? You deserve a good beating. Why didn't the plane explode and kill you? I didn't look at the messages. I just took out my computer, opened my email and quickly sent an email. I only sent a simple message. I'm back home safely. After the email was sent, the avatar on the other side was black. And there was never a reply. I stared blankly at the computer. Hearing the sound of footsteps, I closed the computer. The woman with her hair in a high bun was my mother. Luna, why are you looking at your mother so distantly? I was still in a daze for a while. My mother wiped her tears and went out. At night, I heard the sound of things being smashed in the study. Does she blame us? She pushed Miss Isabella downstairs, and she was in a coma for 3 months. Stop talking. It's all in the past. Mr. Ethan and Miss Isabella are getting engaged soon. Don't let anything go wrong at this critical moment. My hand holding the water glass trembled slightly. I turned around and left quietly. Early in the morning, I sat in front of the computer, feeling gloomy. I went downstairs in the middle to get something to eat. My mother was watching TV in the hall. The TV suddenly announced. Big news, the Ethan Group announced that it will hold the engagement ceremony of Mr. Ethan and Miss Isabella in the middle of next month. I was stunned. An engagement on an island? I remember that once upon a time I seemed to have pestered Ethan too. I begged him. The island is very romantic. Let's hold our engagement ceremony there, okay? He just had a cold and annoyed expression. Luna, can you stop making a fuss? I'm working. Seeing that he was unhappy, I immediately sat beside him obediently. Okay. I won't talk anymore. You can work well. Memories flashed by. I came back to my senses. My mother was startled when she saw me. Luna, why did you come downstairs? Are you going out? Where are you going? Mom will go with you. She had already told someone to get her bag. She was also looking for the remote control to turn off the TV screen. Looking at her nervous and uneasy actions, I understood. She was just afraid that I would be like I used to be, sticking to Ethan like chewing gum. But Mom, I won't do that anymore. Never again. I'm not going out. I came down to get something to eat. What? I had already taken a bottle of milk and turned to go upstairs. When I reached the stairs, my mother was still very surprised. Luna, you. I sniffled. Mom, you can watch TV. I'm going upstairs to work. After the Ethan Group released the engagement news, some old things were brought up again, including the rumored incident that I was crazy enough to push Isabella downstairs back then. Half of the netizens sent their blessings, and the other half scolded me. Wow, it's finally announced. Blessings. Wish them a long-lasting relationship. A happy marriage and an early birth of a precious child. You must be happy. Where's Luna? She doesn't dare to come out. She must be jealous to death. It is said that she was forced to be sent abroad. She's really bad. She really thought that if she killed someone, Ethan would like her. She tried all kinds of tricks, but in the end, she still didn't succeed. Bad people will never have good rewards. I looked at it numbly and closed the web page. But at dinner, I didn't expect that my father brought Ethan here. I happened to go downstairs to have dinner and saw this scene. I stood at the stairway. My whole body went numb. Why would he be in Luna's house? As a prominent figure like Ethan, he would know any news at the first time. Naturally, he already knew that I was back. No, it was also because he gave the green light that my father dared to bring me back. My father invited him to the study. He also motioned to my mother to quickly take me away, who was standing there dumbfounded, lest I cause trouble. I lowered my head and followed my mother to sit in the living room. The door of the study wasn't closed. With just a side glance, I could see that tall figure. A pure black suit and neat short hair. He has always been the king among men. No one is more handsome and capable than him. I turned my head to take a look. It seemed that my father was looking for something. Ethan didn't even sit down. He didn't drink the tea on the table either. He was about to leave after taking the thing. Luna, help Mom see how this bag is. My mother wanted to divert my attention. I turned back and helped my mother check it. Mom, it looks nice. 5 minutes later, a pair of long legs walked out. My mother stood up and politely invited him to stay. Ethan, why don't you have dinner before leaving? Of course, we all knew that he wouldn't stay in Luna's house. But no one could afford to offend the Ethan family. Ethan finally turned sideways and, for the first time since he entered the door, glanced at me. What kind of look was that? Cold and different, as if looking at a stranger? I sat stiffly on the sofa and didn't move. If it were in the past, I would probably have been excited and gone over to hold his arm, calling him Brother Ethan one after another. But now, I was also quiet. It seemed that the person in front of me wasn't that important anymore. He nodded slightly. No, Mrs. Luna. I still have something to do. He raised his foot, took his eyes off me, and was about to stride away. He took 2 steps. I suddenly clenched my fists and spoke up. Wait a moment. The person who had taken 2 steps stopped. He stiffened for a moment and turned sideways. My mother had already grabbed me in a panic. Luna, what are you doing? Ethan said he has something to be busy with. I felt the pain of my mother's grip on my hand. His eyes also darkened a few degrees. What is it, Miss Luna? That's fine. I no longer called him Brother Ethan. He also called me Miss Luna in an extremely cold tone, not just Luna, nor my name. I took a deep breath for a moment. I have something to give you. Wait a moment. I pulled my hand away and ran upstairs. I entered the password, opened the innermost drawer, and took out a square box. I ran downstairs. Downstairs, everyone looked at me coldly. As if I was going to cause trouble again. But when I took out the dark blue square box, everyone seemed to understand. The coldness of my parents disappeared instantly. This was something I asked for from Ethan's grandmother in the past, but it doesn't suit me. I'm returning it to you. It's going back to its rightful owner. It didn't seem to be what he thought. When I handed it over, he was surprised. The gloom on his face also faded away. Inside the box was an antique bracelet, which was passed down from the older generation of the Ethan family. No one had ever been optimistic about us, but Ethan's grandmother favored me very much. When I was 20 years old, she gave me this bracelet that symbolized the grandson's wife. I once thought that I would definitely become the young mistress of the Ethan family. It was only a long time later. I realized that those were all unrealistic and fragile dreams. There was a long silence. He then reached out and took it. Ethan left with the bracelet. My mother came over and patted my head comfortingly. A week later, I started working at the 3rd hospital in the city. I majored in medicine for my undergraduate degree, and I stayed in a medical research institute abroad for more than 2 years. However, my parents were still a bit worried. I knew that they had sent someone to follow me. I wasn't angry. After all, the engagement of Ethan and Isabella couldn't tolerate my disruption, which would harm the Luna family. I really wanted to tell them that it would never happen. The old Luna was already dead. The current Luna didn't love Ethan either. I didn't expect that not long after I started working in the hospital, Isabella actually made an appointment with me. We sat facing each other, and the atmosphere was awkward. She said she had a bit of a cough, but looking at her very mild symptoms, I knew that she wasn't here to see a doctor but to find me. I prescribed some medicine for her. She was holding the prescription and still hadn't left. She took off her sunglasses. Luna, you've lost some weight. I don't want to have any more contact with that old circle and those people. What's more, Isabella, once upon a time, we both liked the same man. And I lost completely. I avoided her topic and spoke in a flat tone. The pharmacy is on the first floor. I'm going to see the next patient. She still didn't leave and stared at me. You seem to have changed completely. You used to be the most lively one among us. You were never this quiet. I smiled. Miss Isabella, are you here to see a doctor or do you have other purposes? She didn't say anything. She put on her sunglasses and left. However, the moment she opened the door and left, I looked at her feet. 3 years ago, she rolled down the stairs and hurt her leg badly. She had several surgeries and lost a lot of blood at that time. Because of this, I took the blame. At that time, only the two of us were upstairs. I tried my best to defend myself, saying that she fell down by herself, but no one believed me. Ethan picked her up, looking extremely distressed. Brother Ethan, I didn't push her. I quickly explained, but before I could finish, he kicked me in the stomach. Get lost. That was the first time I was beaten. It was probably the first time he hit a girl too. Within 2 days, I received a lawsuit from the lawyer of the Ethan group. Isabella wasn't a member of the Ethan family, but Ethan wanted to seek justice for her. I almost went to jail. It was said that it was because Ethan's grandfather pleaded for mercy that I was sent abroad instead. I subconsciously touched my stomach. He kicked me with great force. Now, every rainy and cloudy day, my stomach aches faintly in that area. The next time I saw Ethan was in a bar. It was a gathering of the hospital department. Our private room was right next to Ethan's group. The young drive. Daniel had been drinking. When he saw Isabella passing by in the corridor, he asked for her WeChat. Isabella slapped him. This slap made everyone in both private rooms come out. In the crowd, I immediately saw Ethan, who was automatically given way by others. Isabella also immediately threw herself into his arms. Ethan, I met a lecher. Dr. Daniel defended himself. I just asked for her WeChat. I didn't touch you at all, ma'am. On the contrary, why did you hit me? If you don't want to give it, that's fine, but he can't hit people either. Ethan, who was the leader on the opposite side, had a dark look in his eyes. I clenched my fists. The director then recognized that it was Ethan on the opposite side and quickly stepped forward to pull Daniel. Shut up. Don't you recognize who this is? This is Mr. Ethan. Apologize to Mrs. Ethan immediately. After being scolded by the director, Daniel became much more sober in an instant. But he was still too young. He was still defending himself. Ethan, I don't think I need to apologize. I didn't hurt Mrs. Ethan. I didn't touch a single hair on Mrs. Ethan. I swear what I'm saying is the absolute truth. I clenched my fists tightly. Daniel really had a momentary lapse in judgment. He didn't know that every word he said could cost him a great deal. Really? So, you mean Isabella framed you? Ethan squinted his eyes slightly. The aura he exuded made people back away in an instant. No one in the whole corridor dared to move. Stop standing there stupidly and apologize. The director scolded Daniel again and then Grove led to Ethan. Ethan, this is just a young guy who just graduated. He doesn't know his place. But Daniel, for some unknown reason, just refused to apologize. Take them to our private room. Ethan tilted his chin slightly and gave an order to the people beside him. What are you? What are you doing? Let go of me. This. Less than a minute after they went in, there were dull thuds of fists hitting flesh and Daniel's painful moans. The director panicked. But still couldn't stop Daniel's fate. The others could only cower like quails. Who dared to offend Ethan, the biggest entrepreneur in Jinx City? Daniel had helped me go through the formalities when I joined the job. Although I felt pity for him, looking at the situation on the opposite side, I was powerless. But I didn't expect. Ethan let go of Isabella, glanced at me, and stepped in front of me. He stared at me intently. Luna, tell me, what's going on? I didn't understand for a moment what he was talking about. But I still believed in Daniel and wanted to take this opportunity to save him. Ethan, I believe what Daniel said. He's already been slapped. He doesn't need to apologize anymore, right? After I finished speaking, I felt my head was covered in sweat. Until he hooked the corner of his mouth. I thought he was willing to believe. But unexpectedly, what he said was, Luna, did you instruct him to harass Isabella? You still haven't changed. You're still scheming to harm others. If we weren't here today, what would your drunk cyan colleague have done to Isabella? Would he have ruined her? My mind couldn't react at all for a moment. He not only didn't believe me but even, he thought I had instructed it. He was too close, and his imposing aura made me almost lose my balance. Ethan, you're joking. I don't have the guts to do that. I managed to stand still and forced a bitter smile. But he still didn't let me go. His gaze was so intense that I felt my abdomen go numb and cold. You don't have the guts. 3 years ago, you dared to push someone downstairs. 3 years later, you put on a weak facade. Do you really think you can deceive people? He directly pressed my head against the wall with his palm. I couldn't move. My colleagues were also frightened. As soon as the director stepped forward, he was shouted at harshly. Get lost. No one dared to step forward anymore. I looked behind me at those familiar faces. Just like 3 years ago when I was kicked to the ground by Ethan, they had the same look of satisfaction and superiority on their faces. Looking at the person in front of me who seemed to want to kill me and hated me to the core, I suddenly felt so tired. I shrugged and smiled. And I just admitted it. Yes, Ethan. I instructed him. So, stop beating drive. Daniel. Beat me instead. Let him out and put me in. Beat me to death. I got more and more excited as I spoke. Daniel's moans became more and more pitiful. I don't know where I got the courage to look him straight in the eyes. Did you hear me? I said I instructed it. Come at me. Throw your punches at me. I was clearly so angry, like an enraged little leopard, but my tears just kept falling uncontrollably. My provocation didn't work. Daniel was beaten badly. On the way back, I walked along the riverside. Meeker suddenly stopped, and I was dragged into the car. The door was closed. There were 3 tall and burly men in the car. I called for help, but I was slapped unconscious. When I woke up, I was in a strange and cold villa. Where is this? Who are you? There were people in the room, but no one answered me. I touched my phone. Fortunately, it was still there. I quickly took it out. But instead of calling the police right away, I frantically sent emails to the black avatar. My whole body was shaking uncontrollably. Sir, she's using her phone. She won't call the police, will she? Hearing this, I looked up nervously. The person who came in turned out to be Ethan. I was stunned. But when he came over with a stern face, I was even more scared. I quickly sent emails again. However, every single one of them seemed to disappear without a trace. My phone was snatched away. What were you sending? I turned off the screen. Without my fingerprint, he couldn't unlock my phone. Only then did I confront him in a panic. Ethan, why did you kidnap me here? He just looked at me coldly. He was so tall that I was trapped on the sofa. I found that my clothes had slipped off my shoulders. I wasn't sure if it was just my imagination, but I felt his eyes were fixed on my exposed shoulders. I quickly pulled up my clothes and snapped. What are you looking at? Perhaps this was the first time I had spoken to him so harshly since I fell in love with him. I was really scared. Where was this place? What was he going to do? But he completely ignored me and went straight upstairs. I took the phone on the table and was about to run out. But the bodyguard at the door blocked my way. I turned around. Ethan was standing in the middle of the stairs looking at me. Don't waste your efforts. This is my territory. Without my permission, do you think you can get out? My temples throbbed. What on earth do you want to do? It's getting late. I want to go home. I told Luna's father that I had something to talk to you about, and he agreed. What? My father knew that I was taken away by him. Well, 3 years ago, when Ethan told me to get out of the country, my father didn't dare to object at all. Even if I was taken away by Ethan to be held accountable, he could only agree. I felt deflated all of a sudden. But what was he going to do? I got it. It was because of what I said in the bar. In the bar, my provocation didn't work. Meant that it's just that the Luna family still had some status. He didn't want to teach me a lesson in front of those people. So he brought me to his territory to teach me a lesson. I quickly sorted out the situation and understood. I stood there with a sense of righteousness. Don't leave. Tell your people to do it. After you're done beating me, I'll go home. I don't have the time to waste here with you. The person on the stairs seemed to have heard something unbelievable. He simply stepped down. What did you say? Once upon a time I would have lived or died for this face. But why do I now think he's just a hypocrite? And I just feel that I was so stupid in the past. Stop pretending. Don't you just want to avenge Isabella? Just do it. As long as you don't beat me to death, I'm still going to leave. I can barely breathe when I'm in your place. I didn't know which words had offended him. Suddenly, he grabbed my neck. Say it again. You can't breathe when you're in my territory. I tried to pull his hand away, but I couldn't. So I just let him be. But then he released his hand. I leaned against the wall and coughed violently. Luna, if you don't want to die, be quiet. He went upstairs again. He left me and 2 bodyguards downstairs. I endured until the early morning. I searched all over the first floor but couldn't find a way to run out. In the end, I was cold and hungry. So I lay down on a bed on the first floor, wrapped in a quilt. During my drowsy sleep, I was haunted by nightmares. I dreamed of my days abroad. I kicked and struggled. Don't come near me. Get away. I have no money left. I really have no money. Please let me go. It hurts so much. Dad, Mom, save me. Why can't I sell my blood anymore? I can still do it. I can hold on. I need money so badly, doctor. Every time I fell into these nightmares, I couldn't wake up. Only when all those nightmares were over, as if I had been punished enough, could I be set free. In a daze, someone seemed to be standing beside me and shouted loudly, "What are you still standing there for? Go and call the doctor quickly." Yes, young master. Finally, the nightmare was interrupted. I turned over, crawled up, and fell asleep again. Not long after, it seemed that someone was touching my hand. Then, the cold liquid flowed along my arm and spread throughout my body. My uncomfortable body felt a little better. How is she? She still has a fever. After finishing 3 bottles of IV fluids, her fever should go down. The conversation continued. There's a room next door. You can go and rest. Ethan, can I check Miss Luna's body? I need to take off some of her clothes. The person speaking stammered. Sorry, I don't mean anything else. Or Ethan, you do it. What exactly do you want to say? This voice sounded a lot like Ethan's. Miss Luna seems to have a lot of injuries on her body. You go out first. In my sleep, I felt someone moving my clothes. I subconsciously raised my hand to block. But my whole body was weak, and I still couldn't stop it. My upper body was stripped bare. I was very angry. Don't touch my clothes. Perhaps because the person's movements were gentle, I wasn't that scared. I murmured. Help me put my clothes back on. I'll catch a cold later, and it will hurt again. Until this day, Ethan didn't go to the company. Isabella also came. She should have known that I was here. When she came, she had a very bad expression and didn't enter the house. Isabella took a look at me while I was bandaging a stray dog. She almost had a quarrel with Ethan. No woman would allow another woman to be in her fiancé's house. But this time, Ethan didn't seem to be coaxing Isabella unconditionally. His tall figure exuded a bit of indifference. Then, Isabella followed Ethan upstairs. Through the glass of the villa, I could see them going all the way upstairs. I didn't delve into it further and just rubbed the stray dog that I was almost done bandaging. Half an hour later, I walked into the villa. Isabella was just coming down the stairs. When I walked in, I didn't avoid her. Sure enough, she lost her usual gentleness and slapped me. Bitch. The sound was very loud. Ethan, who was standing at the stairway, happened to see this scene. I looked up at the upstairs. Then, I slapped her back even harder. You're afraid, aren't you? But I just want to make you feel bad. You don't know, do you? These days, I've been sleeping in his bed. Sure enough, Isabella's eyes seemed to be about to pop out. She almost couldn't stand still. She ran away in a state of complete disbelief. I sneered at the stairs. She deserves to die. I really want to beat her to death. The person upstairs squinted his eyes and looked at me dangerously. After waiting for a few seconds, he didn't come down to settle the score with me. I took the antiseptic and went out to find that stray dog again. At night, I finally couldn't hold on anymore. Ethan must be a master of psychological warfare. No one can beat him. I appeared at the door of the study. He heard the sound of footsteps, snorted softly, and turned his head. What's the matter? I sneered. Ethan, do you not want to get married anymore? He put down the document and seemed to be all ears, expecting me to say something profound. I'm not a business prodigy, and I really don't understand Ethan's actions. You locked me up here because you're afraid that I'll ruin your wedding in a week, right? You're really too shrewd. You don't trust anyone to watch over me. You feel at ease only when I'm under your nose, right? But you're wrong. No woman can tolerate another woman in her fiancé's house. If this goes on, I guarantee that you will definitely lose Isabella. Have you finished? His calm reaction made me feel like every punch I threw landed on cotton. Also, you really shouldn't be so self-righteous. For 3 years, you left me abroad for 3 years. Have you ever thought about what kind of life I had? You really thought I was studying and furthering my education abroad? Is it possible that my life was worse than a life where I called out to the heavens, but got no response, into the earth but there was no help? Anyway, the old Luna loved Ethan very much, but the current Luna doesn't love Ethan anymore. My words seemed to have really offended him. The pen in his hand was deformed from his grip. The veins on his forehead were bulging. Luna, if you don't want to die, get back to your room right now. I took a deep breath. I want to go home. If that's not possible, I'll go abroad and never come back. Suddenly, he grabbed me. Say it again. I thought I would be choked to death. But in just a few seconds, he released me and threw me back into my room. I couldn't get out. I started asking for some books on brain surgery. Ethan didn't refuse. He had someone send over several hundred books. From then on, I stopped causing trouble for him. I was so absorbed in reading the materials every day that I forgot about food and sleep. No one understood why I was reading books on brain surgery. Ethan couldn't understand either. He did try to ask me, "Do you feel uncomfortable in your head?" I ignored him. He also tried to ask, "Luna, did you have a friend abroad whose head was injured?" I suddenly raised my head sharply. What did you say? Head. Injured. What's his name? I suddenly stood up and grabbed him excitedly. Ethan, do you know something? Tell me. Hurry up and tell me. But Ethan looked confused. His brows furrowed. What's wrong with you, Luna? Calm down a bit. From then on, I became even more withdrawn. I even started going on a hunger strike. Actually, I didn't deliberately go on a hunger strike. I just felt that I couldn't eat anything and didn't want to eat. Sometimes, I thought it would be nice to leave this world quietly. The world is big, and it doesn't really need me. But Ethan wouldn't allow it. After learning that I hadn't eaten for several meals, he actually brought the food over, forcefully held me in his arms, pried open my mouth, and spooned me bite by bite. But I didn't swallow. Several times, I almost choked to death. He got angry. Luna, do you really want to die? I wiped the residue from the corner of my mouth and sneered. Yes, are you afraid that I'll die in your house and it will bring you bad luck, Ethan? From now on, I'll do whatever you're afraid of. You're a devil. I'll be happy when you're not happy. He released me weakly. I actually saw dejection and defeat in his eyes. Ethan, who was always in control, also seemed to feel completely powerless. I thought he had finally given up. But I didn't expect. The next second, he scooped up a large mouthful of rice, chewed it up himself, and then put it into my mouth. I quickly tried to back away and resist. But he was really crazy. He ignored my biting of his tongue and forced the rice down to my throat. I was forced to swallow it. I bent over and reached for my throat. He released me. Since you won't eat when I feed you properly, I don't mind feeding you myself. After a while, he scooped up the rice and fed me again. I didn't dare to object anymore and obediently opened my mouth to chew and swallow. However, during this meal, we both had red eyes, as if we wanted to devour each other. I guessed right. Isabella came to make a scene again. This time, what she saw was even more painful. Because since the last time he fed me, I didn't dare to disobey Ethan anymore. Otherwise he would definitely have more radical ways to force me. Even, he forced me to sleep with him. However, there was a galaxy between us. His reason was that whenever there was thunder, I would make a lot of noise and wake him up. I would be much more well-behaved when I slept beside him. This reason was absurd. But I had no way to refute it. Because if I tried to refute, he would even come to kiss me. He said that my words were unpleasant, and since he told me to shut up and I didn't, he might as well block my mouth. This time when Isabella came, she happened to see us lying on the same bed. And it was also very strange that I was actually lying in Ethan's arms. Every time before, we would each stay close to our own side of the bed and never touch each other at all. But this time, we were actually lying together. I was very confused. I usually sleep in a fixed position and don't change it. However, Ethan was actually very calm. When Isabella saw it, she was indeed hysterical and came to pull us apart. What are you doing? Luna, you bitch. I'll kill you. Why can't you leave me alone and keep snatching Ethan from me? Are you trying to drive me to death? I was grabbed by the hair by Isabella. However, soon, she was thrown away by Ethan. The force was so great that she even fell against the wall. She was extremely broken down, and her eyes were red. I wanted to open my mouth and explain. You misunderstood. We didn't do anything. But when the words reached my lips, I shut up again. It seemed that no one would believe this explanation, and why should I even bother to explain? 3 years ago, she was the one who insisted that I pushed her downstairs. In the end, I didn't say a word and just looked at her coldly. The commotion didn't last long, and the room became quiet. Ethan calmly took her to the study. They talked for a long time. I could vaguely still hear the sound of breakdown coming from inside. I just sat on the bed in a daze. I just felt that all the noise in this world had nothing to do with me. But I still clearly heard one sentence. No, it's not just an agreement. I'm serious, Ethan. We're getting engaged in 3 days, and I'll become your wife. I don't agree. I want your Ethan family to announce the cancellation of the engagement tomorrow. I must marry you. Please, let me marry you. Isabella's voice was almost pleading. I heard Ethan's cold attitude, just like that of a robot. Isabella, what do you want to do? From the very beginning, we agreed that the so-called engagement news was just to stabilize the stocks of your Isabella family and repay an old favor to your Isabella family. I rubbed my head. What on earth did I hear? They had a contractual relationship and weren't really going to get engaged. I clutched my head. I just felt very confused. I couldn't make sense of it. I don't know how long it had passed, but they stopped talking and actually stood at my door. Isabella looked at me coldly. She suddenly spoke up. Ethan, don't you see, she's not the old Luna anymore. Her eyes are now dazed, and she doesn't love you anymore. As long as she agrees to marry you now, I'll step back immediately and never bother you again. Is that okay? I took my hand away from my head and looked at the two of them in a daze. Ethan seemed a bit hesitant, but he still stood beside me and gently held my hand. Luna, don't be afraid. I frowned and looked at him. What are you talking about? He stroked aside the disheveled strands of hair on my face. Every word I'm going to say next is true. After holding my hand tightly for a moment, he gently released it and took out a red velvet box from his trouser pocket. He opened it with a snap. Inside was a 10-carat diamond ring shining brightly. Isabella was shocked. You? Ethan took my hand and kissed the back of it gently. Somehow, I felt his hand was trembling. Just as I was about to quickly pull my hand back, Ethan knelt down on one knee. Luna, will you marry me? As long as you're willing, in the future, you'll be in charge of the Ethan group. You'll also be in charge of me. I will always love you and atone for my sins with the rest of my life. I couldn't understand anything anymore. Ethan, what are you saying? I don't understand a word of it. Was I dreaming? I pinched myself, and it hurt. It was reality. I was completely at a loss. Luna, in the future, I'll cherish you 1,000 times, even 10,000 times more, and spoil you to be the happiest person in the world. Please, promise me, okay? I've never liked anyone else. I just used to think that you were always sticking to me, and I was a bit annoyed. My rebellious nature inside me emerged, and I wanted to drive you away so that I could be more peaceful on my own. But in my world, there has actually always been only you. I was so stupid. I was terribly wrong. You're lively and active, but I always thought it would be nice if my future wife could be a bit more quiet. So, I thought I was tired of you and sent you abroad, hoping that through the experience, you could cultivate your character. But I was wrong. You are who you are and don't need any changes. This stupid decision later proved to have really hurt you badly. I'm like an unforgivable sinner. I blinked my eyes. What was I hearing? I looked at Ethan with his slender fingers that were already slightly trembling. His face was also focused on looking at me. Although he was still wearing yesterday's shirt and trousers. But he was a natural clothes hanger and still looked formal. It was me, on the other hand. With a messy hair like a bird's nest, I was in a sorry state. People who didn't know would surely think I was very happy, like a Cinderella being proposed to. After a long while, I finally opened my mouth. But Ethan, I don't like you anymore, and I won't marry you either. The person kneeling there trembled violently upon hearing this. When he opened his mouth, his voice was actually hoarse. Luna, you want to be a bit naughty, right? It doesn't matter. I know you've suffered a lot of grievances, and you still blame me and hate me. I can kneel here all day until you feel a bit better. I seem to have heard a huge joke. I looked at him with a cold smile. Ethan, don't you understand? What I mean is that it's never going to work between us. Each word was more cruel than the last. Give up this idea. Even if you kneel until next year, I'll never accept it. I was calmly indifferent. The scene that I had dreamed of once had actually come true, but I wasn't happy at all. Time was really cruel, changing a girl's once best dream. Get up. Stop kneeling. I've already rejected you. Almost at the same time. His eyes turned red, and his whole body was trembling. His eyes filled with red tears looked at me fiercely, and he even tried hard to force a smile. Luna, don't say angry words. After marriage, I'll do my best to make up for it. Even if you want to stab me a few times or even take my life, that's okay. As long as you accept me now, please. He held my hand tighter and tighter, as if he was holding the most precious treasure in the world. I know I was wrong. Please give me another chance, okay? But I wasn't moved at all. Ethan, let's assume that everything you said is true, but I don't love you anymore, and I don't want to marry you. Before I could finish. If you want to get married, just do it. It can be anyone, as long as it's not me. If I really have to say it, I can marry anyone as long as that person isn't you. My words finally completely shattered him. He couldn't even kneel steadily anymore. Only his grip on my hand became tighter and tighter. I pulled out my hand, lifted the quilt, and got out of bed. Ethan, can I leave here now? I took a step forward and was once again grabbed by the wrist by him. Only then did I calmly realize that his wrist was frighteningly hot. He seemed to have a fever. Don't go. Think about it again. Really, I can sacrifice everything to marry you. Please, be willing, Luna. I was such a jerk before. I'll never let you down again in the future. Along the place where our hands were held, some scalding liquid dripped down. It wasn't mine. I couldn't cry in such a scene. I had to repeat. Ethan, can't you understand? I said I'm not willing, and I'll never be willing. Do you hear me clearly? I tried hard to pull my hand out. He was holding it too tightly. I had to turn back and break away his fingers one by one. Our hands separated. As I walked away, the ring box that he was holding in his other hand also fell to the ground with a thud at the same time, making a dull impact sound on the soft carpet. The three of us. I was numb. Ethan was in tears. Isabella was smiling. Ethan was kneeling there like a madman. Luna, this is your last chance. Do you know that the business of your Luna family has always been taking on the business of the Ethan family? Have you ever thought about why I helped the Luna family? If you leave today, I don't have to help anymore. I originally regarded them as my future in-laws. You've received respect because of the company of the Luna family. If the Luna family goes downhill, what will your situation be like? On that day, I won't help you anymore. I'll just treat you as a stranger. Have you really thought this through? I clenched my fists, but my face remained extremely calm. Fine. We'll be strangers from now on. Goodbye, Ethan. Behind me. Ethan, I told you so. You won't succeed. Next, we'll still get married, right? On the day of the Ethan Group's engagement banquet, I went crazy. Just because a piece of overseas news was broadcast in the square. William, a genius in general medicine, suffered brain death overseas. It is said that he left only one last words on him: little darling, don't be afraid. I'll always be here. I went out in the morning to go to the bookstore and choose books on brain treatment. This news was announced in the square. I couldn't move any further. On the huge screen, there was also the last image of him lying on the operating table. I remembered everything. The person I liked was named William. On the streets of New York. When I was being beaten up and harassed by thugs, he saved me. He also wiped away my tears for me. Don't be afraid. From now on, I'll protect you. Since he appeared, no one ever told me to go back to your own country again. No one beat me up anymore because I couldn't pay the protection fee every day. He was so kind. It was he who took me to see a psychologist. He also introduced me to a medical research institute and let me continue my studies. He was so gentle. He said that when I finished my studies, we would travel around the world, taste the most delicious food in the world. Then on a romantic beach, he would put a ring on my finger and keep me by his side forever. I said that the scars the black people made on me were so ugly. But he kissed them over and over again. They're not ugly, silly. Not at all. Husband just feels sorry for you. It's husband who came too late and didn't protect you well. I loved him so much. I studied very hard and also hoped to become as outstanding a person as he was. I even wanted to graduate early and marry him as soon as possible. But on the afternoon of September 7th, a large truck came speeding. He pushed me away and fell asleep forever. I twitched all over. I rushed through the crowd who were sighing under the big screen, tears streaming down my face. I just felt that my whole body ached terribly. I couldn't catch my breath. It was as if I was going to suffocate, as if I was going to die. It can't be true. It's not real, right? I quickly opened my phone with trembling hands, and remembered that number. I got through. But there was only the choking sound of crying. I broke down and burst into tears. I then rushed towards the airport and booked a plane ticket. On the way to the airport, I was stopped by Ethan. Luna, what's wrong with you? Calm down a bit. Ethan, let me go. I want to see the most important person. I kicked and bit him. I just cried and begged him to let me go immediately. Ethan, he's dead. I want to see him one last time. Do you know? His name is William, and he's the best person in the world. I woke up in the hospital, tied up tightly. Surrounded by doctors in white coats, all dressed formally. You. A mouthful of blood directly spat out from my chest, staining a large piece of white cloth red. Who told you to tie me up? Where is this? Is it abroad? Where is William? Take me to see him quickly. I struggled hard, but no one untied me. They all seemed so indifferent, not like human beings at all. Ethan, Miss Luna's emotions are very unstable, and her condition is also very bad. Only then did I see that Ethan in a black suit was also there. He actually held the blood I spat out with his trembling hands. Looking at the blood shaking in his palm, his eyes turned red. His voice was hoarse. Luna, stop making yourself angry, okay? Your body will completely break down. But I just pushed him away. I want to see William. I want to find him. He's still alive, isn't he? He must still be alive. He promised me that he would marry me in the future. The more I said, the more tears flowed. Mixed with the blood at the corner of my mouth. I kept struggling against the strips that tied me up. I was left with nothing but endless breakdown. Who on earth hypnotized me? Damn bastard. Why did they make me forget him? Damn it. I suddenly bit Ethan again and questioned him fiercely. Ethan, was it you? You asked a hypnotist to hypnotize me and made me forget the person I loved the most, right? How could you be such a bastard? He's dead. He bled so much at that time. I held his head and really wanted to put that blood back into his body. But he still smiled at me. He used his last bit of strength to say, don't cry, okay? I'm most afraid of Luna crying. I twitched all over. I couldn't control myself anymore. I remembered everything, but in my mind, there were only the memories of William lying in the operating room for just 3 days after the car accident. The rest was all blank. Because I really wasn't with him. I was hypnotized, forgot about him, left the hospital, and never thought of him again. I only remembered a very familiar email address. When I was sad, I would send emails to that address. I even returned to my home country. I completely forgot about him. I felt so guilty and sad. My heart ached so much. I missed him so much. Ethan's hand was covered with blood, and there was a deep bite mark. The doctors were all nervously concerned about him and asked him to disinfect and apply medicine. But I just turned my head away and bit my own tongue hard. Ethan immediately came to pry open my mouth. Luna, what are you doing? Let go. I promise you. If you open your mouth, I'll take you to see him right away. When I heard this, I immediately released my lips. He was nervous and wanted to pry open my mouth to check. But I wouldn't let him touch me. Don't touch me, Ethan. You said you'd take me to see him. I want to go right now. After I said this loudly. But there was a sharp pain in my body, and I lost consciousness again. It had been many days since I woke up again. The ward was very quiet, and no one tied me up anymore. However, I was surprisingly calm and didn't try to run away. I saw the calendar. It had been 10 days since William passed away. If I went now, I probably wouldn't even be able to see him one last time before he was buried. I was really too much. The person who loved me the most had a car accident and suffered brain death. I only accompanied him for 3 days and then forgot about him. I left him behind in a foreign country. Even after he died, I didn't go to see him. Could there be such a heartless girlfriend as me in the world? I really deserve to die. I really don't have the face to see him. He must have been very sad. He cherished me the most when he was alive. In winter, because I was cold-natured, he would heat up hot water for me and help me soak my feet. In summer, he was afraid that I would catch a cold from eating popsicles, so he would hold the popsicle for a while before giving it to me. Well, I won't go to see him. I don't have the face. I don't want him to see me and be disappointed either. He was so handsome, warm, talented, and responsible. In the next life, he will definitely meet the best girl in the world. Unlike me, I was like a debt collector to him. He saved me, took care of me. In the end, he even lost his life to save me. What on earth am I, an unforgivable devil? I should have died at the hands of those black people and shouldn't have gone home with him. If he hadn't met me, he wouldn't have died. He would have been alive and well. He was so excellent. Everyone said he was a genius doctor in general medicine. How can I atone for my sins? I can't even make up for it even if I die. Luna, let me take you out for a walk, okay? Ethan came again. I ignored him. I just stared numbly at the sparrows outside the window. But he quietly sat by my bed and turned his head to look at me quietly. His eyes looked so sad. His eyes were sunken red, and he didn't shave his beard. He was so ugly. How could I have thought he was handsome before? I was really blind. After a long silence. His ashes had been brought back to the country and buried in the redwood cemetery. Aren't you going to see him? Without any warning. A tear fell from the corner of my eye. Ethan raised his hand to wipe it away for me. Don't cry. You still have me. I'll always be with you. I turned my head away. My eyes were full of disgust. His hand paused in the air for a moment and finally fell down feebly. I've investigated clearly. After you went abroad, it wasn't like what we thought, that you were furthering your studies. On the day the plane landed, $1 million your family gave you was robbed. You couldn't go to school, were penniless, worked day and night. When you were desperate, you even had to sell your blood. Those people bullied you, beat you up, and kept asking you for protection money. He couldn't go on. He buried his head deeply. Finally, he even covered his face and burst into tears. So he also knew how good William was, right? It was William who saved me. He was the best person in the world. Ethan couldn't compare to him even with a single finger. Ethan was crying louder and louder. I sneered. If this scene were to be photographed by the media, it would surely receive hundreds of millions of views. The president of the prestigious Ethan Group, a 28-year-old man, was crying like a dog. But I felt nothing. I just thought that he sounded really bad while crying. It was probably about half a month later. I still went to see William. Even in black and white, his photo on the tombstone was really handsome. The person who put the photo there really knew how to choose. The corners of his lips were slightly curved into a smile. It seemed that he wasn't angry at all. This incompetent girlfriend, actually ran away after his car accident. He seemed really happy to see me. It felt so good that William didn't hate me. In this way, I could still love him silently, remember him, and reminisce about him. William, is it cold in the world down there? You always said that I was clumsy, but I knitted a scarf. I made it especially for you. Don't think it's ugly. I took out a warm red scarf from my bag and wrapped it around the tombstone. Then I secretly accompanied him for an afternoon. I just felt that sitting beside him made me feel very happy. See? I told you he was the best person in the world. He didn't blame me at all. He didn't drive me away. And I didn't want to leave either. I'll just stay with him like this. I remembered clearly that I had fallen asleep beside William's tombstone. But when I woke up, I was at home. I looked around in a daze. Luna, you're awake. Are you hungry? Mom made tang yuan. How about having some? I sat up. Mom brought the tang yuan and was about to feed me. I turned my head away. Mom, where's William? I was clearly with him. Mom put down the bowl and wiped her eyes. Father Luna, she. Dad put his arm around Mom. But Mom started crying even harder. It's all our fault. Why didn't we resist back then? or I should have gone abroad with Luna. Then she wouldn't have suffered. What kind of days were those? It was worse than death. My precious daughter has been through so much pain. Jingwan, it's my fault. I was muddle-headed. When she said her money was robbed, I didn't believe her. I even scolded her for lying and being scheming to come back. Our Luna was originally the best. She used to be so lively, the joy of our family. Look at her now. I'm really afraid that she... Mom was crying more and more bitterly. She was a premature baby. We promised to love her forever. But we've really hurt her. How much pain must those wounds on her body have caused? That woman Isabella is the one who's lying and full of tricks. Father Luna, for the rest of my life, I'll do everything I can to make her life miserable. Don't worry. That woman actually deceived everyone back then. Jingwan, even if the Luna family is brought down in the fight, I'll make the person who hurt our precious daughter pay a price she can't afford. I took a 3-month leave from the hospital but still went back to work. My family was worried about me. But only when I'm working can I be a normal person. Even after work, I'd bury myself in the laboratory. I don't care about things outside at all. It was only when I heard from my parents that I learned that Ethan didn't get engaged to Isabella. The previous engagement news was also related to some agreement, and now it has been cancelled. The Isabella family is having a hard time now, and their stocks have still been delisted. Isabella's father was also found guilty of money laundering and taken away. Isabella and her mother were going to go abroad, but were stopped by the police and are currently under house arrest. My parents were still talking. I didn't listen anymore and went upstairs. However, Ethan seemed to often have health problems and would show up in our hospital every now and then. But he didn't make an appointment with me. It was always with other doctors. That is, we would still run into each other in the hospital. I was really annoyed. Especially when our eyes met, I even felt full and didn't want to have lunch. But he didn't seem to realize it and would keep looking at me, not looking away for a long time. If I wasn't wearing a white coat, I really wanted to hit someone like him. On the Mid-Autumn Festival, I fell into a deep sleep while sleeping. The room was also locked from the inside. My parents were suddenly very worried and found someone to pick the lock. They heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that I was just sleeping. When I realized what was going on, I guessed that they were afraid I would commit suicide. How could that be? My life was given to me by William. Although my medical skills are not as good as his, by living on, I can also make a small contribution to the field of medicine. I won't die. Mainly, someone like me really doesn't deserve to go down and see him. I worked and studied extremely hard, and my days were very fulfilling. Even my relationship with Ethan improved. The reason was that when my father had a physical examination, he was suddenly diagnosed with liver cancer and needed a liver transplant. But neither my mother nor I was a match after the pairing test. Unexpectedly, Ethan came to take the pairing test voluntarily. And he was a match. I was just thinking about whether to ask him if he would be willing to donate his liver when he actually came to find me. Luna, I'm willing. No matter how much liver your father needs, I'll have that much cut from my liver. After hearing this, I was still shocked. After the 6-hour-long operation ended, the chief surgeon announced that the operation was a success. The liver donated by Ethan saved my father's life. I became a bit nicer to him. One day when I was doing an experiment in the laboratory, I suddenly felt my eyes go black and fainted. When I woke up, I was on a big bed. I rubbed my head and got up to go outside. I took a good look at the layout and realized it was Ethan's house. Hearing a sound from the next room, I looked over. It was Ethan and a middle-aged man I didn't know. Maybe he was Ethan's friend. He was wearing a pair of glasses and had a bit of the air of a doctor. Ethan noticed me and smiled at me. You're awake. You've been overworking. Your father and mother are still on a business trip and haven't come back. The hospital asked me to take care of you for a while. I was taken aback for a moment. Thank you. At the same time, a lot of snow was falling outside the window, and it was a white world. I couldn't wait to go downstairs and take a look. I went downstairs. Naturally, I didn't hear the conversation that continued in the room. Ethan, the imaginary person named William that Miss Luna conjured up due to her delusional disorder, is what's keeping her alive. In a way, this is a good thing. Does she have any other diseases in her body? Will she always be safe and sound? No, Ethan. Miss Luna will be healthy and safe forever in the future. The snowflakes were so beautiful. I stood in the snow and opened my palm. The glistening snowflakes fell into my palm. Do you want to build a snowman? I turned around and saw Ethan in his home clothes, looking gentle and refined. I didn't answer but opened my phone and searched for a picture. I started building the snowman on my own. He brought some snow over to make it easier for me to roll the snowball. Later, with our joint efforts, we built a very lifelike snowman. I took out my phone and took a photo, then posted it on my WeChat moments. When I looked up, I found Ethan smiling at me tenderly. Luna, I haven't seen you smile for a long time. You smiled when you were taking the photo just now. You looked very beautiful. That night, I was very quiet. However, not long after, Ethan turned his back to me and coughed violently. I saw blood in his handkerchief. He quickly tidied himself up and turned around, acting as if nothing had happened. He was still a gentleman. Until he raised his head and looked at the falling snow. Luna, both of us have been turned white by the snow. I was silent. A month ago, I went to the gastroenterology department to find James. I accidentally found Ethan's medical records. He had advanced gastric cancer. But so far, outsiders don't know about it. I also gently raised my head and said softly, yeah.